just get a little bit further that way. Well, we'll see how that works for now. Alrighty. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the live stream. Tonight I'm going to continue working on the ship that I started last night, but I'm already got ahead because I decided to listen to the next episode and I couldn't listen to it while watching this because, I talk to myself. So that would have been embarrassing. So we're back tonight. Yeah, and it's starting to rain outside. I've got the Hattons batch down. I took everything out of the garden besides the sunflowers because I can't move the sunflowers. They're about 10 feet tall, so they're going to be sacrificed to the storm. I got the tomatoes out. I got the cucumbers. Can't do anything about the pole beans. They're just going to have to hang till they fall. And the rain has started. Put all the stuff away that can become a projectile. And, yeah, that's what we're up to tonight. Fun. Fun. I'll use that word loosely. So, yeah. I got this guy down. I got his base colors on. I'm going to leave him a little bit splotchy. I'm going to go in with the wet paint and just kind of dab him up because I don't feel like being very, I like the mixing color of the colors of paint. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on. I hope you're safe tonight. Hope you've got water in your fridge just in case the power goes out. I recommend before it gets too bad, do a load of laundry. Make sure you got all your, the comfy stuff. Like, you're going to be home for a couple of days. Make sure you got the good comfy pajamas, nice and clean, ready to go. Make sure you've had a shower. That shower, the shower where you scrub until you're, to your third layer of skin. Scrubbity scrub. You don't want to have to be stuck a couple of days with power and feeling greasy. Yeah, I got water in the fridge. I got containers of water in the deep freeze, frozen, just in case the power goes out. There'll be some ice in there to kind of keep everything cool. I think anyway. I know I got it upstairs. I don't know if I have anything downstairs. I gotta check that. And yeah, get your storm chips, get your 6-pack, and away we go. Alrighty. We are on the Nature Predators 17 by Space Paladin 15. And I just watched the latest episode, but I'm going to be watching this one tonight because I prefer the episodes before the character dies. That was my favorite character because, of course, he's my favorite character because he's fucking competent. Oh, they always kill the competent ones. Alrighty.
Happiness fluttered in my chest. Blood was tempered by nerves. It was encouraging that we had attained the first kill of the war. The humans, in response, spewed plasma at the approaching contained ships. They seemed to walk downward walls off, like banishing a torch to keep the beast at bay. Weapons of that caliber couldn't deal more than minor damage, but I knew they had to preserve their main payload for their target. It occurred to me that we had simplified the task of bombing the station for the humans. The predators were pouring toward their stated target, and in many ways my suggestions cleared the path. There wasn't a single sign of deviation, which boggled my mind. The asteroid base dispatched as many ships as it could, and left its own defences barren in the process. When given the choice, our commanders prioritised civilian lives over military infrastructure. Things can be replaced. Stations can be rebuilt. I chided myself. Lives cannot. There are children down there. I couldn't help but wonder for a split second if this was a lapse in judgment on my part. Where was that predatory sadism? The ones Zahn said humans used on their own world. The last thing I wanted was to cost the Gajiti Union valuable resources. It was worse if some soldiers didn't make it from their barracks. Their deaths would weigh on my conscience for years. But there was no way a predator could override their bloodlust, particularly while engaged in warfare. It was a matter of time before the humans rounded on our position.
No, I shut your window. You're not going back outside.
There we go. Shoot the bastards. Blast them out of the sky. I roared. Jemik sighed.
I just said they're out of range, sir. We need to move closer.
We are not abandoning our position. The second the planet is vulnerable, they'll pounce. My mind yearned to fight the humans myself, but I had to remember the stakes at hand. We were consigned to watching, as though this skirmish was some spectator sport. Zahn was cheering each time a Terran vessel went up in a fireball, which earned strange glances from the nearest crew. The predators weaved erratic patterns to avoid termination, but their spirals and zigzags weren't fast enough. Every crackle of the laser purged one of the vermin. The station's defences were slow to be charged, but their effectiveness was dazzling. In fairness, it seemed a Luftwaffe could take out a Terran ship. Their workmanship was rather flimsy. The G craft remained hot on the humans' heels and spit our own concentrated plasma at them. There was no breathing space for our attackers. The Predators rocketed up to max acceleration and towed a tighter line toward the base. It was wonderful to see our ships chasing the humans. How the tables had turned from the natural order. The hunter was the hunted.
Captain, the Predators are showing no interest in the colony. I don't see the harm in taking a few ships in the battlefield.
Jimmy pressed. They're just trying to lose their pursuers. If they can get us away from the colony's defense, that's what they want. Their spines bristled.
I hate feeling powerless.
As do I. Zahn, why don't you make yourself useful? I gestured toward the doctor, who was transfixed by the battle. Establish contact with Piri if at all possible. Make her aware of the Predator's tactics so she can relay a warning to all nearby installations. The captain returned an eager tail swish and scrambled to reopen communication lines. My gears darted back to the viewport.
Alright, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put the cat out for another 20 minutes.
The plasma compromised its hull integrity and reduced it to a fractured heap of metal. There was no hesitation under the G chest.
Water and put it downstairs. It's underneath the sink. Did you put it in the basket? Well, just take those containers and fill them up and set them in the tub. Some buckets downstairs too. You probably won't need it. You know, if we don't do it, we're gonna need it. Are you putting them in the bathtub?
These two I'm gonna put in the basement.
Why?
Well, I figured I put two in the basement in the deep freeze and they freeze. It carves out of them two big ice blocks.
I don't think that's necessary, but anyway. I'll be right there. that's done. Alright, who missed me? Nobody. That's okay. Nothing like heavy breathing while we do art.
Bombard the incapacitated ship with fire. Nobody would be foolish enough to leave the Predator alive. They needed to be taken out of the fight with permanence. As long as such a monster was still kicking, they could have a final trick up their sleeves. The human vessels clustered back together and opted to deal with the gaining pursuers one at a time. They peppered the closest to Jade's ship with fire and concentrated their strikes in its drive column. The patroller's engine went up in a colossal flare. Debris was flung in all directions. Our other allies were forced to drop back to avoid getting swept up in the blast's wake. Stars! I hate humans, I seethed. They don't quit or retreat. I curse my ancestors for not confirming their extinction centuries ago. This is going to be a tedious and costly war, even if we win. The Predators had endured a hailstorm of fire and pressed nearer to the base all the same.
There we go. What do you think?
How many of their brothers had reduced to scrap, they persevered. Watching the humans' fearlessness, I couldn't help but envy their natural disposition. They shrugged off losses with that callous disregard for life they were so famed for. We felt our casualties. That was the Federation's downfall against the Arxer. It was emotion that lost us the war.
There we go. I need to wait for that to dry fully.
Kill.
And then put it in the thing.
We have to do something.
Jimmy growled. I flicked my ears. It's too late. They're almost within orbital range. While the defenses could deal with the humans handily, they wouldn't win the race against time. The Predators could survive just long enough. Pesky monsters. Sensing that their goal was within reach, our opponents found a final burst of speed. The lead bombers dispensed their payloads and cylindrical missiles homed in on the asteroid's surface. I braced myself for the inevitable aftermath. The Khajiit patrollers lunged forward in desperate pursuit, but they were already too late. Explosions detonated across the complex, tearing through the expansive stone building. The flame enveloped anything in the explosion's proximity. Smoke plumes pushed up within the artificial atmosphere. Hangar roofs came in and buried any ships we failed to get off the ground. The powerful laser was out of commission too, since our open defences were tucked in the centre of the base. Bunkers and training areas were pummeled into submission. I wondered how many servicemen were trapped beneath the rubble. The humans followed up their first volley with another barrage. There was no pause or emotion, though I don't know why I thought there would be. The subsequent explosions ensured that nothing was standing and reduced any likelihood of survivors. The horror on the bridge was a choking atmosphere. Amidst my grief, I couldn't help but feel responsible for this calamity. Our local garrison could have stopped them if there had been a few more ships at our disposal. Why are the humans not turning toward the colony? They're alive and I think still have some bombs. They should come to us in a minute now. The Predator ships dipped away, but were unable to shoot off their pursuers. The Terrans branched off on individual courses. They knew we couldn't chase after all. Some of those vile creatures would escape. Wait. I shook my head in disbelief. They can't believe it. The humans did exactly what they said. My head swiveled in the direction of the voice. It was that unruly comms analyst from earlier. They never intended to attack any civilians. They just annihilated the military base. And that's your reaction? I snarled. None of the evidence suggests that they wanted to. We forced their hand. The technician growled. I glowered at the scene in the stars, considering the Predator's departure. What more evidence did one need beyond looking at their faces? Their blood-stained history was just the icing on the cake, confirming what our eyes already knew. The humans could be faking a retreat to lull us into a false sense of security. The bombers were still within close range of the asteroid, and it would take them a while to escape the system. Their strategy could be to double back after we assumed they were leaving. That, but our considerable presence by the colony dissuaded them from heeding their impulses. These creatures were more intelligent and slightly more self-aware than the Arxer. They must have recognized that they were outmatched. That was a sufficient explanation, wasn't it? I forced myself to lower my hackles. What's your name, kid? Rumi. Rumi.
So today we're meeting Jocelyn. She's renting the property, and she wants it to feel more like home.
The deck isn't.
No, she
I know
does.
it's tricky because it's a rental property. You don't want to overinvest in it. You want us to fix that? Come on out!
Wow!
Scratching.
I respect your drive to question everything, even common knowledge, but this isn't the right cause to fight for. If humans were a species of any merit, do you think that the Federation would have dug up some argument to spare them in decades of study? I don't know. Think about it. That goes to anyone agreeing with the young man here. And yes, we did force their hand. We forced the humans to concede civilian targets because of our overwhelming force. How so? We're in the wrong place. We're in the right place. Our presence deterred the humans from attacking anything else. Everyone should be proud of themselves today. We saved 20,000 lives. Rumi slumped his shoulders. If you say so. I imagine our allies have grown as restless as my crew. Seeing that the promise of the humans raiding the colony wasn't panning out, some captains may be tempted to pursue the fleeing ships. Sensors indicated that many were gearing up their drives and that our meticulous formation was dissolving. Now was not the time for this. The predators were still in the system. All we needed was a few minutes of patience to save the colony. I leaned over my microphone. The G vessels, hold your positions. Do not let the humans bait you into weakening our defenses. I'm not just sitting here, damn it. A voice pierced through our encrypted military channel. We're going to attempt to search and rescue and render medical assistance to anyone alive. My eyes darted about the viewport, searching for any signs of movement. A Gajid hospital craft had tripped away from our ranks and commenced a blazing run toward the dais. Its course placed it directly in the path of an escaping human. Sensors read that the Terran ship had target locked the vessel, and their weapons were charging. Turn back now, I pleaded into the comms. You won't be rescuing anyone if you're turned to slag. I was Scordian myself when the humans are gone. The first responders pressed forward in defiance and diverted their central power to shields. The fleeing predator held the plasma round, which deflected off our ship's nose. The medical transport soon shaken by the contact, though it refused to turn back. The distance between them and those things was narrowing. This was lunacy. What were those Gajid doctors thinking? I admired their commitment to saving lives, but they were setting up the exact scenario I feared. Abort! I shrieked into the communicator, broadcasting the message in all frequencies this time. Gajid medical vessel, turn back at once. The predators will destroy you. There was no reply from the Gajid first responders. They were unarmed, which meant they stood no chance in combat. Worse, the Terran ship might have heard my plea and realized what an easy target they stumbled upon. I waited to see the doctors blasted to bits, feeling pity swell in my chest. On the bright side, at least it would draw some sense into Rumi, and whoever else was swayed by him. The expressions around the bridge were finally the ones I recognized from old face-offs with the answer. For some inexplicable reason, the human ship hesitated. Sensors suggested that their weapons were powering down and they were altering their course to avoid a collision. I was certain my eyes deceived me as the primates allowed the medical ship to pass their position. What about that, Captain? What could they possibly gain? Ruby hissed. I chewed at my clothes, baffled to the core. Allowing the vessel to survive that aimed to resuscitate enemy combatants was in direct opposition to the Predator's oath. Why would those abominations exhibit mercy? That was the exact brand of illogical softness we were mocked for by the Arxer, but accepting any explanation that mandated emotion was out of the question. There had to be an ulterior motive at play. There just had to be. Like I told the crew, the Federation condemned humanity by unanimous vote. They wouldn't make that decision lightly. Perhaps I wasn't looking at the big picture. The humans need the Vendel for now. They can't afford to alienate their lone ally when they're so behind technologically. I soothed myself. Tava must have sent someone to supervise, and so they managed to show restraint. They're biding their time. Alarm flashed through Rumi's body language as he saw me struggling to formulate a response. The doctor rolled his eyes in disgust and turned to address us all. They wanted to preserve ammunition when they realized the ship wasn't a threat, Zan answered for me. Humans are pragmatic enough to override their sadism when it comes to their own survival. Quite possible. I managed to keep my voice steady. The Predators were doing an excellent job messing with my head, if nothing else. Whatever game the humans are playing at, we know their true colours. We always have, and we always will.
The Shoppers Beauty Plus event. Discover even more beauty. Shop now at shoppersjugmart.ca.
Hello, how are you tonight? Just adding the second detail. I'm going with orange for the red.
Memory transcription subject. Governor Tarver of the Red Mill Republic. Date.
It's starting to rain, so...
September 5th, 2136. The essential Terran dignitaries were present in the meeting hall alongside the top-ranking Venlo staff. I settled down in the chair between Noah and Cam, which was turning into the typical seating arrangement. There was satisfaction in finding the Predator's presence so normal and routine. The importance of this conference could not be understated. The UN was determining which parties to take action against in the Federation, and whether diplomatic avenues could prove a suitable alternative to violence. There was no reversing the war against the Gajeeds. The damage done to their repute by Sovereign was catastrophic, but perhaps not everyone had to get suckered into this shit show. That was why I hoped Roussel would show at the meeting. The Federation officer hadn't left his room since his arrival, and had barely picked that the mails were delivered by his door. My attempts to speak with him were met with a half-hearted go away. It was all I could do to inform him of the planned start time, and remind him once more on my way to the assembly hall. In case the Kolshian did accept our invitation, we wanted to make him as comfortable as possible. The humans were wearing opaque visors to conceal their eyes, and surgical masks to obscure their menacing snarls. The UN personnel were quite accommodating. It would likely be standard procedure for any future first contact. My eyes flickered over to Noah. Without the predatory features to buff up the humans, they looked squishy and weak. Those hands were more attuned to picking berries or climbing trees than combat, which was probably close to the truth. They lacked any form of camouflage for stealth, and weren't that quick. Even their smell and hearing was subpar. What kind of predators are they? They always mention tools when asked, then changed the subject, I thought. Perhaps they're ashamed of their natural weakness.
I look ridiculous in this Tarver. I prefer a full helmet rather than this cyborg doctor cosplay.
Noah hissed. I stifled a laugh. I understood half of what he said. But this allows you to drink water, and I hope it's less stuffy. You must have been miserable on that first TV appearance.
Oh, I think I was just trying to remember to breathe. You have no idea how in awe we were.
The ambassador leaned back in his chair and waved a hand for emphasis.
I realized how important that moment was. Sometimes I still think to myself that I dreamed it all.
It is like a fever dream, isn't it? It's all so strange. Oh, speaking of strange, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Go on.
We've noticed some unusual behavior from your human volunteers. Mildly concerning.
Dear God, what have we done?
Just all sorts of bizarre reports which I'm increasingly baffled by. Multiple cases of humans speaking in high-pitched voices when asking Vendel to do things, or even saying hello.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Giving us toys that make ear-piercing squeaks when touched. Sometimes throwing objects and begging us to retrieve them. I don't understand the purpose.
That would be demeaning. Sorry about that.
I'm just so obsessed with our fur. Always trying to touch it and talking about how soft it is. Some people suggested you wanted to harvest it. Noah recoiled, and I figured his eyes were wide with horror.
Nothing like that. We just, like cute animals.
Why?
It sparks our nurturing instincts, releases dopamine, which makes us happy.
But you don't do any of that.
You're a planetary leader, and I'm a terrifying beast to you. It'd be wholly inappropriate and unprofessional. Though I confess, as for the last one, the thought has crossed my mind.
You don't scare me anymore, Noah. But if you must, I'd prefer you try any fur petting on Cam than me. I'd get a laugh seeing him bite your head off.
Do you?
Cam glared at us, clearly eavesdropping in our conversation.
Alright, let's see if we can get these eyes open.
It's going to be your fault if Noah loses a finger or two. Good thing I have 10 of them.
Noah stretched his hand in the military advisor's direction, and the Van Mill jumped up from the table. The human brought his arm back to his chest with a laugh.
I'm kidding, Cam. I'd only do that if you asked me to.
Secretary General Meyer broke off his conversation with his generals.
Well, I see we're all wonderful at sitting still, aren't we, Ambassador Williams? We were just playing around.
Noah replied.
I see that. A lot of mature adults here.
The UN leader heaved an exasperated sigh. I was no expert in human body language, but his posture screamed of exhaustion.
Right. This meeting was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. No sign of Roussel. Let's get started.
I pulled up the briefing material on my holopart and refreshed my memory one last time. The human generals had forwarded a proposition for a ground invasion of the Gajeed homeworld. I'd given it a cursory review in advance of this gathering and discussed with my advisors what our role should be. It It was ironic since I knew what those plans were derived from. They were offshoots of the original tactics we drew up to invade the Axa. Brandishing those ideas against our former allies which were designed to raid sentient farm worlds felt dirty. There were some modifications stressing the preservation of civilians where possible. I was surprised to see the humans adhering to their warfare rules under the circumstances. The stated objective was to capture government leaders and to force the Gajiti Union's capitulation. I couldn't disagree that the only way to bring them to the negotiating table was at gunpoint. They'd amassed an annihilation force from the discovery of a single human.
I take it we're all familiar with this operation. It is an ambitious task, I know.
General Zhao stated. General Jones took the their mask.
But ground fighting and atmospheric warfare, that's our territory. I'm confident in our chances.
The problem is which ships to use for the battle above. To transport a proper amount of soldiers.
Zhao finished.
Candidly, our ships just don't cut it in any way.
You'll use Venlo ships for whatever you need for now, and that's final. We'll give you our blueprints too, so you can build yourself a proper armada. I glanced at Noah for support and was relieved to see an encouraging nod. With our knowledge in hand, I know you can make improvements in our designs. It will help us both in the long run. I don't wish to keep anything from you anymore.
That's very generous of you, Governor. Thank you.
Maya said.
We will repay.
The door creaked open, which about made me jump out of my fur. My violet skins, Kolshin slunk into the room and surveyed the occupants with hesitancy. I was grateful the humans had kept their face coverings on. Even with the precautions, the Federation officer was trembling. My ears perked up. Roussel, we didn't think you were coming. Please, sit down. It was promising that he showed up, since he was the best hope of peace. Then again, he was a wild card. Roussel could outright insult the humans and inflame the situation. I don't think the UN representatives, or for that matter any Venlil present, would take kindly to a defense of Sodlin's actions either.
I wasn't sure I would come myself.
Kolshin sighed.
But we must all live with the choices we make. Here I am. It's come to our attention that you find it hard to look at us.
Secretary General Meyer gestured to his facial attire.
We've elected to wear these visors so that you don't feel like we're staring at you. Does that help?
Roussel waved his tail.
Yes, thank you. No, thank you. You have the sincere gratitude of our planet for your heroism and compassion. Knowing your feelings toward predators, I suspect you will decline my offer. But we are more than willing to get you asylum on Earth, should you so desire. I appreciate the offer. You diverge from the Arcs in many ways that I have seen. But I don't think I could ever live among you. We understand. If you truly cannot abide our looks. I mean, it's hurtful, but not unexpected.
Meyer's words about the sting of the galaxy's cold-shouldered treatment ran true. My mind flickered back to how wounded Noah looked when he learned that the Venlil planned to kill humanity. The crestfallen look on his face when I described my initial impression of him to Roussel. Maybe I shouldn't have been quite so honest, even if it soothed the first officer. The human played it off as a joke, but I suspect he did need some kind words on occasion. It must be awful to be shunned as a monster constantly, to feel rejected and unwanted, to have every action under a microscope. Noah had been dealing with Venlil gawking or panicking at the sight of him for months. Did he understand that I cared for him despite my instincts? I patted Noah on the hand absent-mindedly, and he squeezed my paw in return. Roussel drew a deep breath.
All right. What else do you want of me? Coexistence is all we seek from anyone.
Maya replied.
I don't know how to achieve that from a federation that seeks to genocide humanity. I'd like your opinion, because my own outlook is quite bleak. Some in the Federation might be open to hearing your case if they can get past the... you know... I've had a lot of time to think, and I believe human history may have been studied through a narrow lens. It's so ingrained that predators are inherently evil. We might have overlooked the forest for the trees. And where does that leave us? I don't think the Khajiits are the only ones plotting an attack in the Federation. If you have any ideas for a peaceful resolution, I'm all ears. But we intend to defend Earth to the last.
The Kolshin's demeanor shifted in an instant, and suddenly an authoritative officer was present.
You could start by releasing the hostages. Now. Peaceful species don't hold diplomats and civilians against their will.
That was my doing, Roussel, I chimed in. After what happened with Marcel, you can see why you thought it necessary.
But I agree with him, Tava. It reflects poorly on humanity, because regardless of the truth, everyone will fault us in that matter. The Federation must be worried for their citizens' condition.
Maya tapped his fingers on the table, deep in thought.
It will help our case for their own people to validate what has been said by the Venlil. We should allow anyone to leave that wishes to. News of our existence is out.
No, I did.
The The damage is already done. There's no reason to keep them here.
I flicked my ears. Very well. I'll reopen the borders tonight, at least for outbound ships. Roussel's eyes widened in surprise. It was obvious the officer had been expecting a resistance rather than for the predators to side with him.
Good. That's settled. I knew that ideas, Roussel.
Maya asked.
The Federation is holding a summit a few days from now. They're going to discuss what to do regarding humanity. You could send a representative. Perhaps they would let you say a few words in your defense. What's to stop the Federation from covering up anything we say? Any information we give them, or anything that contradicts their narrative? It sounds like your leadership has already made up their minds. The Federation aren't out to dupe their own citizens. They just can't have another Arxa. Everything will be broadcast, so even if the leadership won't budge, you could sway public opinion. But you hardly sound convinced that the Federation will let the humans speak at all, Roussel. What's to stop them from slapping a collar and our representative and bashing their face in two? Or shooting them on sight? Honestly, nothing. I can't predict how they'll react. I would have thought we were better than that at one time, but I don't anymore. I couldn't send anyone to that fate. It would be akin to murder.
I swished my tail in agreement. After watching a human pilot brutalized at the hands of a Federation crew, the risks were fresh in everyone's memory. It was a senseless sacrifice that could be for nothing. The Federation would be reluctant to let a predator voice its thoughts. Roussel knew better than anyone how deep-seated their hatred ran.
I'll go.
Noah said. My pupil snapped toward him. Absolutely not. I don't want to see you killed or maimed as a lab rat.
I'm not afraid of dying. If there is a single species like the Venlil out there,
Wait a minute. She just used the phrase lab rat. But like 2 chapters ago, they were right appalled by the term lab rat.
I find it a worthy cause.
The ambassador gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder, then turned his head toward Maya.
All I ask is for a cyanide capsule. I don't know if I could bear torture. I want a way out if it comes to that.
The Secretary General hesitated.
Are you sure? I couldn't tell you, not with a straight face, that I believe you'll come home. Quite sure. And I'd like to leave as soon as possible. There's no time to waste.
Horror chilled my blood. The last person I wanted to fall into Federation custody was my sweet, forgiving Noah. He was a godsend in the ambassadorial war, always with a perfect read on my emotions and willing to answer every awkward question. I had come to think of him as one of my own advisors. Perhaps I was a bit too reliant on him to diffuse tense situations. I'll go with you then, I hissed. I'll try to protect you, though I don't think I can do much. My standing with the Federation has diminished.
Tava, no. What if they heard you? They threw a Venlil in the cage with a starving predator, remember?
They won't do that to me. I'm a planetary leader, and the galaxy will be watching. I'm not worried for my safety. Roussel lowered his eyes.
Please allow me to accompany you as well. I was to turn myself in for high treason. We don't want you punished for helping us.
Maya said.
I know, but my testimony may be helpful in balancing what Sovlin has told them. And I wish to be home, whatever happens. My heart lies with the Federation. If that's what you really want, you're not a prisoner.
Disappointment seeped into the UN leader's tone.
I do wish you would reconsider, though. I won't. Very well. Good luck to all of them.
Noah stood up from his chair and extended his hand to the Secretary General. Maya tugged at it in that quirky grappling ritual humans did. It felt like a final goodbye, though I hoped that wasn't the case. I wondered what the gentle ambassador could say that would dissuade the Federation. He needed to challenge hundreds of years of research and flip assumptions without getting killed. It was a tall task, even for a man who epitomized the best of humanity.
Alright, what do we think? Alright. Let's see, 19.
Let Memory transcription subject. Governor Talbot of the Venlil Republic. Date. Standardized
And then
human
look.
time. September 10th, 2136.
Clean.
2 patrol ships rushed to intercept our transport the second we crossed the civilian border. There was none of the warmth in their greeting that I craved. I hoped that dodging the G territory would lower the temperature of any interactions, but word travelled quickly. Our neighbours.
I want to skip to Sovlin's shit again, so let's see. We're gonna be a little bit. Let's see. I just did 19. That one. There we go. I do like a redemption arc. Although I don't think Cullen deserves one.
Memory transcription subject. Captain Saltman, Federation Fleet Command. Date. Standardized human time. September 28th, 2136. The humans' actions in the past few days were a showcase of why I was right about them. It brought me relief to see such vindication. The dishonorable tactics persisted into our home system, sneaking their transport into orbit.
Didn't I just listen to this one? Oh, this is
Good old
15.
predatory booze.
That was 15.
Memory transcription subject. Captain Saltman, Federation Fleet Command. Date. Standardized human time. September 3rd, 2136. Worst case scenarios cycled through my mind as the G ships formed a defensive wall around the colony. I tried to imagine how the people on the ground felt, trapped and aware of the impending assault. This sea of dots spanning the blue off circumference was all that stood between the innocent and hungry predators. Any angle that was overlooked was an opportunity for the humans to break through. We would stop any missiles from penetrating our ranks by throwing our craft in the way if necessary. The only way a battle with the Predator ended was with all of them dead.
Good lord, am I still in the wrong section? 9, 17, 26.
Memory transcription subject.
Try that one.
Captain Saltman, Federation Fleet Command. Date. Standardized human time. September 28th, 2136.
Are you a dentist? No, I'm an
The humans'
artist.
actions in the past few days were a showcase of why I was right about them. It brought me relief to see such vindication. The dishonorable tactics persisted into our home system, sneaking there. Nobody but the Venlil ever tried to speak to humanity. I hated the
Okay, this is the one I want.
It baffled me by
Where you realize he's the bad guy.
to soften up our populace. Then I realized the arrogant apes thought they could get people to come with them, willingly. The Terran's supposed rescue attempts targeted children who were the most susceptible to suggestion. I'm sure they predicted the stampede casualties a ruthless invasion would cause. Every clip I saw was the image of death and humans baiting their livestock into submission with false kindness. The Arabs wouldn't allow ships like mine to attack human positions due to the fact they would overlap with civilian dwellings. I didn't want any innocents to die, but I knew it was in kindness to spare them from predatory possession. This was our lone chance to regain control in a timely manner. The only way to get any terrified innocents out alive. We should have taken this shot before the predators got more entrenched. Who knows what brainwashing techniques they're employing on our people. Prime Minister Perry lost it with me the third time I impressed her with the bombing scheme. She said the collateral damage was unacceptable and was livid at the proposal. My ship was reassigned to a patrol route by our largest colony for an indefinite duration. Barring a secondary invasion, I was out of the game. When a message came from the Union government after several days of silence, I couldn't play it quick enough. I hoped we're being recalled to the cradle. Perry's had us in time up for long enough, I growled. Zahn closed the soundproof door to the briefing room behind us.
It must be stressful, knowing that they're on your own world. I knew humans were a conquering species, but it's another thing to see them in action.
Why hasn't the fucking Federation come to our aid? The cowards must be scared to raise a claw in our defense, I sneered. They're just watching. It'll be them the humans come for next.
Perhaps they think the predatory expansion will end with us. A foolhardy notion. Their kind always want more,
The doctor said. I know, Zahn. Shit. Let's see what the humans have done to citizen children this time. No sense delaying. I cast a holopack message to the projector. Holographic footage of the arcs raiding our homeworld flickered to life, and my spines bristled. Explosions ravaged our planet, wiping out swaths of civilians in one fell swoop. Realization washed over me like a cold shower as the pieces began to fit into place. It was so obvious. Of course the predators were working together. The humans were the brains of the operation. They took out our defences so that the red carpet was rolled out for the other sadistic monsters. It was a matter of divvying up the cattle and finishing off what was left of our populace. My eyes narrowed with fury. I was so tired of seeing my world exploited by psychotic beasts who preyed upon the helpless. The amount of death I witnessed in my career was more than anyone should have to endure. Now billions of souls were about to be whisked away by the two freaks of the galaxy. Unless the G-Forces cheated death, the rock I called home was no more. Why was nature so uncaring and unfair? No matter how much I tried, there was never any way I could make the predator's suffering match ours.
There we go.
Our existence was
A little better.
A living hell. They can't destroy our cradle, I spat. It's sacred.
I need
For those
toothpicks.
people. Gone. And for what? Zan's eyes widened with sympathy.
I am sorry, sir. If there is anything I can do, please let me know.
Thank you. But I blinked away tears watching an answer bite into a child's arm. The humans got what they wanted. I'd like to watch the end of this alone. The acting first officer swished his tail and ambled out of the room. None of the Takan's warnings about humans had done any good to prevent this calamity. We hadn't been smart enough or fast-acting enough. This was the inevitable conclusion, wasn't it? Squinting at my pad, Billy had attached a note to the video. I could almost hear the Prime Minister's crisp voice and see the sternness of her expression. It must have been her final action to pass this media montage to any active communications satellites.
By the time you view this, I will already be dead. My bunker is on the brink of collapse, pelted by bomb after bomb. This message is being relayed to any high-ranking officers out of system. I hope we find you in good health, but there's no sense addressing the brave souls stationed here. Our fleet failed to restrain the inbound Arctic ships with catastrophic losses. We were preoccupied with the humans and taking them out any time they lingered near the cradle. The Terran ships burst into the fray as soon as we abandoned our position against their vector. There was great confusion on who to fight. We figured they planned this scenario in cooperation with the Arxer. Then, the monkeys began attacking the Greys and broadcasting warnings to the surface. We intercepted signal after signal. It could be staged chatter, but they seemed surprised. Perhaps it was just predatory treachery, betraying an ally for the thrill. It could have been a dispute over the livestock hall. But this is the last footage I saw. I can't conjure a reason that such sacrifice and tenderness would stem from aggression or cruelty. Those traits are polar opposite. What a marvelous ruse, if it is one. Please, send word to the Federation and relate the unspeakable losses of the Gajiti Union. Beg their help. Form your own opinions. And see what he's done with the humans' prisoners.
A flash of movement snapped my eye.
And see what he's done with the humans' prisoners.
A flash of movement snapped.
And see what he's done with the humans' prisoners.
A flash of movement snapped my eyes back to the video. Human soldier plowed into the beast in Arxer, tackling it away from the child. The primate was missing his gun, but swung a knife at the reptilian with a vicious look. His inky pupils were dilated, and his neck veins bulged against his skin. He stepped between the Gajit and the Grey, shouting at the kid to run. What the fuck? Why did he intervene? I thought. Maybe he had planned the child as his own catch, like Pretty suggested. The Terran jabbed his blade into the Arxer's elongated nose. The grey beast roared in agony and crunched through the human stomach with swift jaws. More mammalians rushed over to the kid, peppering the reptile with bullets. They carried the Gajit so tenderly, shielding the youngling with their own bodies. Rescue was one thing, but it made no sense to die for their intended cattle. I kept at the footage, staring in silence as the scene transitioned. The Terran fire team was surrounded by a school and fighting to the last. Many of the fellow's predators were wounded, yet they propped themselves up and kept shooting. It was as though a drug was fueling them. These broken remnants managed to eviscerate an entire Arxer capture squad by the looks of the time-lapse. As soon as there was a moment of peace, the Gajit child raced into the open and knelt by a human's corpse. He jabbed a claw into the predator's stomach, sobbing in hysterics. The kids showed such feeble emotions in front of those beasts, and their lips didn't even curve into a snarl. Two primates stooped to the ground and attempted to console him. A dangerous thought crept into my brain. What if the humans did actually care for the children? What would that say about them? They're capable of There, every part of me screamed for a refutation. I kneeled over, clutching my temples in a desperate attempt to vanquish the thought. There was no logical way to override this narrative as propaganda. It was a transmission from my own government. No, no, no! They're predators. Predators don't have feelings, I hissed. They took your home. They took your family. They took... I collapsed into a prone position, bawling. The more I considered it, the more I realized that all of my arguments circled back to humans being predators. To my trauma, and to the planetary history Zahn claimed to know like the back of his paw. Every sneaking doubt that I blocked out flowed through my mind. The Terrans rushed to tend to the civilians in our world, asking nothing in return. The way they prioritized the children was the same as any nurturing species. They only attacked military targets, both in our home's invasion and when striking the border outposts. The last remnants of a bombing run allowed a medical ship to pass as soon as it was identified. Despite my beliefs, the bombers never so much as glanced at the colony. There was also chatter we heard on the radio frequencies expressing sympathy for what the Arks had done. One pilot said he wanted to negotiate, but his counterpart's retort was that we despised them too much to listen. I wiped a tear off my cheek. Nobody but the Venlil ever tried to speak to humanity. I hated them with all my heart. Crumbling to my conscience's assault, I allowed the memories of that week to play in my mind. The delight bubbling in my chest as I drew screams from a helpless human was as fresh as yesterday. At the time, it made me exuberant. But now, my sole wish was to undo the cruelty. Russell was right when he said I was behaving just like the Arks. He was always the better of us. What kind of a man enjoyed another creature's pain? That wasn't the behavior of a hero who was better than the predators he fought. An unbearable agony clasped at my chest. It was a sickening veil of disgust and self-hatred. I allowed myself to view the event from Marcel's eyes and imbued some feeling into the predator's mindset. The captain was a cruel individual. We shocked him for the slightest movements. The days were unending agony, no sense of time or place. He felt his own body withering away, clung to sanity recalling the kindness of his friend. How do you persuade someone who hates you, who has already made up their mind about you? Nothing that was said mattered, or was even brought into consideration. The officers wouldn't allow him to speak, and punished him for deceit after his repeated claims of friendship. For the crime of looking at the glass, his eyes were bashed in and clawed. Marcel lost interest in everything and became non-responsive. There was the briefest glimmer of hope, seeing his friend Slanek greeting with empathy and care. He thought maybe he could get through to the crew now. The Venlil confirmed all of his claims about humanity, and it was obvious he loved the little guy, or at least didn't want to eat him. But the captain rushed to execute him, because he hated that someone listened to a predator. Of course, extorting every beat of suffering first, and making uncivilized threats. The human saw his life flash before his eyes. He felt afraid and alone. What was his crime but existing? Why was this happening to him? You did all of that, Sublin. How could you? I screamed. Marcel was never known complained, or of a predatory disposition. He was just sickening to look at. The tears were flowing freely now. I couldn't live with the knowledge that I inflicted such torment on a sentient creature who came to my ship in peace. By extension, the ensuing war caused the Khajiit Union to lose our cradle to the Arks. All I ever wanted was to save my people. And instead, my actions cost billions of lives. They yanked my sidearm out of its holster and shoved it into my mouth. Someone who had done what I had didn't deserve to live. I felt like I was thinking clearer now than I ever had in my life. Just a few more seconds knowing what a failure I was. 5, 4, 3. With a detached sigh, I took the gun out of my gullet. It would be wrong to leave a mess for my crew to clean up and traumatize another person. Even if I hung myself, someone would stumble across my body. They would live with that image for the rest of their lives. My stubby legs staggered out of the briefing room and navigated to a maintenance airlock. The thought crossed my mind to write an apology as a suicide note, but that just didn't cut it. Staring out at the stars, I knew I could be free of this guilt. The only trace of this would be a data point on the logs. After my disappearance, someone could fill in the blanks with quiet conjecture. Captain, please, don't do it. Dr. Zahn shouted from behind me, seeing my paw hover over the lever. They can rebuild your home, love.
Ending your life is a permanent decision, and you will never contribute to anything again. It will change your legacy, and the Union will be weaker for your loss.
You don't care about any of that.
There we
Why did you
go.
follow me? I growled.
Because there is still more to add to your story, sir.
The Tucken raised his paws in a pleading gesture, inching toward me.
Even if you don't see it, each day is a gift.
There we
It's
go.
a chance to do something for someone else.
My eyes rolled back as those last words sank in. The doctor didn't realize why he was right, but he
There we
was.
go.
These final actions were selfish, the coward's way out, because I was too afraid
I'll
to
add a
turn
little bit of
myself
clean
over
water to these, and then I'll have a
What right did I have to
diluted.
deprive Marcel of his revenge? Death was too kind for what I did. Suffering was what I deserved. None of the physical pain could be as awful as what I felt now. It was tough to breathe through the oppressive guilt, misery, and regret. I have to go, I snapped. The doctor stiffened.
Sir, you are not in your right mind. We're going to the med bay for observation.
I shoved past Zahn, speed-walking back to the bridge. My gaze met Rumi's and I gave the comms technician a slight nod. The younger Jake looked flawed to see his captain dishevelled and sniffling. My paws moved him aside and tapped the recording button on his console. This is Captain Sovlin speaking. I wish to state for the record that Officer Rissell conducted himself in accordance with the highest Federation ethical standards. My eyes swept across the chamber, studying my beloved crew for the last time. It is my final wish that he succeeds me as captain of this vessel, and that any charges against him are cleared. I will be turning myself in for crimes against sentience. That is all. Astonished gasps echoed across the bridge. Zahn looked baffled which crimes against sentience I was referring to. It wasn't my best to persuade him, or to fault him for feeding me slanted information. The responsibility for my decisions fell on my shoulders, and I didn't want the rest of my crew taken with me. The only honourable thing to do was to turn myself over to the humans and accept my nightmarish fate. I rushed through the corridors to the hangar bay, not wanting to give myself time to chicken out. Whatever the Predators did to me was their prerogative, but my expectation was a slow and painful death. It was quick work to board a shuttle, punching in the stellar coordinates for Earth, the Predators' breeding grounds, and I called it. A planet that filled my heart with hatred that I longed to destroy with every fibre of my being.
How you doing, Mom?
At the viewport, signifying that my
Okay.
final voyage was about to commence. This wasn't the way I thought my military career would end. Very soon, I would know more about the humans than I ever wanted to. My mind's element in such penance.
You know what's coming. I wonder if I can get through. How far is it? I don't know. Okay. That was 26. Do-do-do-do-do. There we go.
Memory transcription subject. Captain Sovlin, Federation Fleet Commander. Standardized human time, October 2nd, 2136. A harsh buzzing drifted into my ears, rousing me from unconsciousness. I stared on the thin cot and grunted at the mattress's inflexibility. Terror flooded my mind as I realized where I was. Gravity this authentic could only mean I was on Earth. I had received a military greeting as soon as I neared the Sol system. When I informed them of my name and intent to surrender, the humans ordered me to power off my vessel's engines. A breaching ship jostled my shuttle and humped a sleeping decker through the ventilation shafts. The Predators weren't taking any chances of trickery or resistance. The accommodations were reasonable, with every basic necessity available. By comparison, the Arcs had kept their captives in squalor. A pen designed for 5 soldiers would be the size of my room's bed. The reptiles had no qualms about piling us on top of each other and degrading our dignity. Water and a food bowl were sitting on a small table. The drinking liquid wasn't the unsanitary sludge you'd expect from Predators. My cell was caged by a barred door, but it was spacious enough to walk around. The body stood open as the battle was finished, and shootouts echoed through the vicinity. I might never see a person that's not a Predator again, I realized with a chill. That's very likely. A pudgy Terran male in layered garments entered, studying me with a calculating gaze. My spines felt like they were about to worm their way out of my back. Those eyes were revolting, and wielding a surgeon of dominance. Was he dissecting me in his mind or searching for my vulnerable areas?
It's just too
The Predator
small
tucked
for
out a
the
little
body.
chair, beckoned me
Even
to
with
the
the
table with my finger. I steeled myself for the physical pain I knew was about to occur. Well, I slunk over to the opposing chair on shaking legs. Go on then. The crown of fading white hair signified his age, I presumed. He fished a stack of pens out of a briefcase and placed some glass adornment over his eyes. The beast looked like he engorged himself in flesh regularly. How else would he have fattened up like that? Words were insufficient to describe the numbing dread snowballing in the pit of my stomach. Figures that the humans waited until I woke up to start reciprocating the cruelty. I was on the other end of Marcel's plate, caged with the monster with no way out.
Hi, Sovlin. My name is Anton Kozlov, and I'm your legal counsel,
The human said. I cleared my thought. Legal counsel?
Yes. If you are unsatisfied with my services, we can find you another representative.
He replied. I don't understand. Representative? Represent me for what?
You're going to be put on trial for crimes against humanity. Your case has been referred to the International Criminal Court by the UNSC. That's the United Nations Security Council.
My ears could hardly process what they were hearing. Humanity had a proper court system that relied on evidentiary claims to establish guilt and stable institutions. It all sounded so tame and normal. First off, such decorum is undeserved. There is no question that I did what I'm accused of. I stuttered. Why would there even be a hearing? Anton's lips curved down.
Everyone has the right to a trial. Presumed innocent until proven guilty. We are a civilized species with laws and justice systems, you know.
I wish you weren't. Savage retribution would at least alleviate my guilt over my own sadism. This counter-professionalism was twisting the knife. The self-proclaimed lawyer had to know he was defending someone who would have killed this whole species in a heartbeat. If I had stumbled across him in my domain, I would have tormented him without refrain.
Anyhow, let's go with the charges and the fact of the matter. The ICC believes that your case is gravitas enough to fall under their jurisdiction.
The predator passed a packet in front of me, which detailed my crimes in their angular script.
While you tortured a single human, it was intended as an attack against our entire species. You're the first alien to face trial by Terran law, so I'd say that's important enough.
Okay.
You also bore the intent to genocide civilians, which, granted, there is less direct evidence of. If you cannot understand these charges, let me know. We can try to translate them into your language, though I cannot vouch for the accuracy.
I have a translator. I understand just fine.
Come
I
on.
lowered my head in shame, despising every word of sophistication he uttered. How do I confess? I am guilty. I do not wish to dispute the charges. I definitely don't want to see evidence of what I did to Marcel. I wish I could forget about that beast. Oh, stars. What if he comes to watch the proceedings?
You can't say guilty, but I think there is a solid defense in the making. Of course, the evidence against you is airtight.
The human paused and tapped a finger to his temple. Maybe they tried to use their hands like we use tail signals.
With your innate resentment of predators, I think there is substantial evidence to argue insanity. We can beseech the court for leniency on those grounds.
What? That's not what I want. You're predators. You can think of a brutal and agonizing way for a man to die.
I beg your pardon?
I want my actions repaid. Request the worst imaginable sentence your government can give. Please. Something torturous. Anton squinted at me. He poured a glass of water and pushed it toward me with a sigh. The primate must be mocking me by concocting such a defense. There was no psychological excuse for my untenable hatred. I failed at every opportunity to revert my course, and never used a scrap of logic. The last thing I wanted was for Terran judges to empathize with my perspective. The predators needed to prove themselves to be a little unhinged or vindictive. Maybe they could have some feelings, but they weren't just ordinary docile people.
Prisoners are not tortured on this planet,
The human explained.
it's explicitly forbidden by our laws. While you are in UN custody, your needs will be cared for. You will be imprisoned if convicted, likely for a period of 10 to 20 years.
My eyes widened. That's it.
That's it.
Imprisoned where? Like where I am now?
Yes, this facility was specifically set aside in case we captured any Federation prisoners of war.
Make an exception. What kind of predators are you? The lawyer eyed my flaring claws nervously.
You need to calm down. I'll be back when you're ready to discuss your case.
The predators have a much better grasp on their aggression than I thought. There wasn't a scratch in my physical
Come on, you
form.
bastard.
Not that there been the deployment of intimidation
Like
tactics.
it's real.
Even
Let me get the drill. Oh, hello. Yeah. There we go. Yay. Alright. I'm wanting to do a Triceratops for a while now. So, I think she'll be lovely. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where did it go? Right here.
Screaming at Anton couldn't be followed by the reaction outside. If anything, my antagonization seemed to frighten the old man. If you're just going to dream of excuses, don't come back at all, I growled. I don't need legal counsel. The white-haired human collected his belongings, shaking his head in what I thought was frustration. That refined conversation wasn't at all on par with my expectations. They were supposed to enact all sorts of pituitary compulsions on me, not confine me under human conditions to ponder what I had done. This is the worst outcome. They have every chance to return the favor, yet they choose to be better.
Listen, if you want to plead guilty, that's your right.
Anton paused at the door as he was pushed out by the guards.
But let me test the waters first. See what sort of a deal the UN are willing to offer.
Why would they offer anything?
You're still one of the Federation's most brilliant tacticians.
How is she?
How is she?
I don't need echoes. What the hell just happened? History. I paused. Am I playing? Refresh that.
Did standardized human. That
Okay.
refined conversation wasn't at all on par with my
Alrighty. There it is. Stick. I found a stick. I'm gonna use the stick. Gonna be a short neck, but it's got a long claw, so I don't want it up here. So, either way. Does she need to go to the bathroom? Does she need to go to the bathroom? Her! Do I need to carry her down the steps?
What?
Do I need to carry Ivy down the steps? Does she need to go out to pee?
No.
Okay.
Just keep on like.
Yeah. Oh, my dog got a porcupine in her paw last week. And they missed a few. I took one out of her leg and I took one out of her chin. But there was one in her paw pad and we knew about that and they couldn't get it out. And it was fine for a week, but now it started to move and her foot's all swollen up and she can't walk on it and she's in a lot of pain. So with the storm coming, we messaged the vet. So they sent a prescription to the pharmacy. So we got her some painkillers and some antibiotics for a couple of days, hopefully to kind of keep everything moving until it moves up enough that I can grab it with the tweezers and haul it out. But yeah, we're getting there.
expectations. They were supposed to enact all sorts of pituitary compulsions on me, not confine me under humane conditions to ponder what I had done. This is the worst outcome. They have every chance to return the favor, yet they choose to be better.
Listen, if you want to plead guilty, that's your right.
Anton paused at the door as he was pushed out by the guards.
But let me test the waters first. See what sort of a deal the UN are willing to offer.
Why would they offer anything?
You're still one of the Federation's most brilliant.
Going to bed? Good night, Mother. Sleep well, Mama. Close those creepy little papers and sweet dreams. I don't know where the X-Acto blades are because I bought a dozen and I still can't fucking find shit here. Maybe they're over here. Alright. Keeps falling down at the party. Yes, little baby in the room. You are not an X-Acto blade. Do-do-do-do-do. Wedgie scratch. Wedgie scratch. Oh, so much better. Buzz. Come on, you. All the shiny sharp things. Shiny sharp things should be there. Not. So unhappy. Alright. Alright.
Additions. That counts for something.
Fine. I really don't care anymore.
Excellent. Oh, and Sutherland, there's... Oh, shit. If someone else is here to see him, you may want to refuse him.
Would Cap here dare to turn me away? A steaming voice hissed, so throaty that it sounded like a snarl. I have a right to face him. The lawyer hurried out, and the muscular figure stood by the door frame in his place. The new pivoter was baring his teeth with strained breathing that verged on panting. This must be the interrogator I was waiting for. I curled my claws for the humans to send him in, assuming they were monitoring the cell somehow. They must not have understood.
Do you wish to speak to the visitor?
A gruff voice crackled through a speaker.
There is no established visiting area at the moment. We can arrange a separate meeting under modified circumstances if you wish.
I blinked slowly. No need for pomp and circumstance. Send him in now. The Barnes creaked out of the way. The human stalked in with a guard tailing behind. My visitor limped like he was wounded. One arm was placed in a sling, and a bandage was tied around his leg. His short hair bore an orange tinge, but it was no more than stubble on his scalp. The predator's face was bead red, marked by 3 long scars that carried a lighter shade. The pattern of those marks clicked with the nagging images in my head. I gasped in horror and struggled to keep myself still. My eyes turned toward the floor as Marcel shoved his crooked nose inches from my face. Every part of me wanted to hide under the bed. It would be much easier to pretend he wasn't here. At least I didn't kill him. His skeleton is much healthier, and he's locked off what little hair humans have. Stars, he is hideous. Look at me, the Terran roared. I took a shaky breath and gazed into his hazel eyes. The human's expression was contorted with a coat of water swelling around his pupils. The depth of emotion that I traded up was staggering, not the soulless abyss I saw them as before. It was a looking glass into his conflicted mind, which was beleaguered by resentment and recollection. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back there. I can't be touched on the neck without thinking of your fucking collar. Marcel's raspy voice sounded choked, and I heard snot bubbling in his nose. He furiously wiped a tear away. I can't look in the mirror without seeing your fucking scars. I'm reminded of you by everything. My skin tingled from the feel of his warm breath on my snout. Guilt plagued me, twisting my insides into knots. How could the human return to his society and act civilized after being treated like an animal? Wetness trickled down my own cheek, and my vision grew fuzzy. I could see truth in his words, that the anguish wreaked havoc on his mind daily. Maybe beating the shit out of me or killing me would give him some closure. I don't want to hurt you again, but when you start attacking me, I won't be in control anymore. I suggest you start with the claws or tie up my paws, I croaked. The predator slammed a fist on the table, baring his teeth. All I want to know is why. What have I ever done to you? Why did you do it? Because when I look at you, I see the answer. I'm sorry. You're sorry. Fuck you, he spat. You're a piece of shit, you know. A lying sack of shit. How am I lying? Tell me the real reason. You said that they took everything from you. You don't care. I don't talk about that. Ever. Don't you owe me that much? They jumped my claws on the chair. If Marcel could derive meaning from that wretched tale, it was something I had to rehash one more time. Sorrow filled my throat, just reminiscing about it. Arx's shuttle stuck past our defences and the reptilians went on the hunt. One of the first places they landed was my neighbourhood. The Gajid Armada's efforts failed to stave them off. Therefore, it was my fault that those monsters tormented my family. Unspeakable things were done to the only two people I loved. I spectated the whole event from a holopad that was dropped on the floor in panic. The awful screams were something I tried and failed to blot out of my mind. The reason I let that firm charge against the Arxid fleet was the paralyzing grief I felt that day. It was meant as a suicide, dying in a righteous blaze of glory. Instead, I was saddled with a heroic mantle and consigned to live for nothing more than vengeance. They killed my family while I was on a call to wish my daughter good night. Happy? It's no excuse. Marcel stepped away at last, patient by the door. I was surprised he didn't throw that back in my face and to try and reopen the wound. Even if humans could feel empathy, there was no reason to extend that to me. Slanic's words about how kind and gentle this predator was rang in my ears. The Vendel staked his life on that belief. This isn't someone who is cruel and sadistic. This is a good person who is dying on the inside. Because of you.
Indeed. There's no excuse for what you did.
The predator decided.
But I saw what the Arxid do. I saw a lot of things I can't begin to describe.
So how? It's not the same on television.
I didn't get shot twice sitting on the couch, Soblin. I deployed in your cradle, don't you call it? You don't even give your fucking homeworld a proper name.
How is that any worse than naming your planet Dirt?
Well, fine. On your cradle. I saw Arx's soldiers munching on a Gajid's organs in the middle of a fucking battle. Then plucking people off the streets to God knows what fate. Was racing to evacuate anyone. Cities wiped off the map and explosions all around us.
Marcel's voice quavered with horror and his eyes stared blankly at the wall. There was a grim sincerity in his testimonial. It would be easy to interpret his anecdote as gloating, but he seemed saddened by the destruction of my homeworld. The humans hadn't wished such a senseless fate upon us. It was us who yearned for a genocide against their race. I chewed my claws with despondency, mourning the infinite loss of the cradle. The question nagged in my mind whether any humans partook in the flesh consumption, but I beat back that morbid curiosity, and she just let the predator continue, uninterrupted.
There were children crushed to death by their own parents, left broken in the streets.
He recalled.
A massacre as far as the eye could see. The stench of death. Flies buzzing in the air. You did all that to yourselves. Humans would never do that to our kids.
A predator speaking as though a stampede was a conscious choice in claiming the moral high ground. This was also bizarre. The notion of humans caring for their young or having any kind of family unit was jarring. To think of them forming attachments felt alien to my brain.
Somehow, you're the worst of it all, son. I will never escape what you did.
I swallowed. So what do we do now? Are you going to kill me?
Oh, I dreamed about killing you. Tearing you limb from limb.
Marcel pinched the bridge of his crooked nose.
But that's not who I am. Not to Nulia. Not to Slanik. And not to myself. You don't get to take that away from me.
I don't understand. Take what away? The predator's lips curved up into a snarl, revealing his pointed canines.
How I treat a monster. It says a lot more about me than you. I'm proud to be human, and I wake up every morning without feeling like a total piece of shit. Can you say the same?
Marcel stalked away with a limpid gait, and the door clanged open at his behest. The human receded down the corridor, as did the UN guard shadowing him. The heavy clops of their feet faded out of earshot. My spine had begun to settle, left without the company of any predators. That final question resonated through my head. The scarred flesh-eater knew that answer as well as I did. It was my treatment of a perceived abomination that shaped me into one myself. And no, I don't think I'll ever feel pride or contentment again. The spark that made me Sovereign, the brazen officer, was gone for good. When the Terran lawyer returned, I decided to go along with his merciful plots. Humanity treated monsters with dignity for their own sake. And who was I to ruin it for them?
Okay. This was 28. Wait, 29 right there. Motherfucker. No. No, forward. I love. 28, 29, that one. Hi,
Early
baby.
transcription subject, Captain Soglin, Federation Fleet Command. Date, standardized human time, October 3rd, 2136. Our van cruised along the Multian Highway, granting me a perfect view of the passing scenery. The road was
Yep, much better.
light signals governing the traffic flow. Humans were more enterprising and entertainment-driven than I anticipated. Intermittent signs advertised shops, restaurants, and hangouts. Dwellings were mostly tucked away on side streets, away from the hustle and bustle of traffic. Earth is not as harrowing as I expected. There's not a single sign of violence or corpses lying around. It's just people, going about their lives. We were en route to a
Here.
refugee camp at the Terran government's request.
Come here, babe.
Despite their best efforts, humans lacked knowledge of our basic biology and necessities. They were also having difficulty getting any Khajiit to speak to them, for obvious reasons. The Predators asked whether I would be willing to provide guidance and assist communication with the more frightened individuals. My attorney noted that there was nothing offered in return, but I was happy to help my people. The few thousand that were left anyways. Anton leaned in.
Remember, this is a test to see if you'll cooperate. You need all the goodwill you can get here. Don't do anything stupid.
The lawyer looked nervous sitting next to me, even with the cuffs around my forepaws. An ankle monitor was also strapped to one leg, suppressing my circulation. The Predators didn't trust me not to run off the second I tasted fresh air. If I intended to flee, why would they have flown a ship into the heart of their territory? There were 2 UN officers at the front of the vehicle, wearing matching artificial pelts. The primate's skin must be sensitive to light, with how they wore extensive garments at all times. Their eyes barely left me. The constant tracking meant my spines hadn't settled for the hours-long ride. The build-up of fear chemicals was dizzying. I coughed, and,
Great. Pat the cat and everything's fuzzy.
Can I say something if I, think that my people are being mistreated? One of the officers named Samantha gave me a curt nod.
Yes, you may.
If you have any ideas for cultural elements that are missing, that's acceptable as well.
The other soldier, Carlos, growled.
We know nothing of your religions or customs.
That old anxious habit of chewing at my claws cropped up again. The most popular deity worshipped in our systems was the Great Protector, a nature spirit that warded off predators. I never believed in such nonsense myself. Judging by how the Archer terrorized it, there was no one safeguarding our cradle. Probably shouldn't tell eligible predators that our higher power is supposed to keep their kind away. I doubt they let Khajiits exercise patronage to her once they discovered that. My faint curiosity wondered what sorts of beliefs the Terrans were governed by. Carlos's words implied that they did have religions, which must shape their society's morality. Perhaps their gods offered wisdom such as only killing when necessary and giving their quarry swift deaths. That could explain their prayer-like conventions on prisoners and warfare. Our van paused by a secured gate where more humans waved it into a large paved area. The vehicle parked itself by a hangar bay and the operator switched off the ignition. The UN soldiers stalked around to open the rear hatch. A dark corner of my mind fed me awful ideas about what condition the Khajiit refugees were in. What if the Predators lost patience with the more fearful individuals while we were in transit? What if being around this many prey animals at once stirred the humans' appetite, even if we didn't want it to? This had to be a massive temptation.
What are you waiting for, Sovlin?
Samantha waved her hand impatiently.
Get a move on it.
Anton snaked his fingers around my wrist, steadying me as I stumbled out of the van. The Predator's skin was slick and oily. The touch sent a shudder through my veins. I tried to use my surroundings to ground myself and forget about my proximity to the Terran. There were no hints of any pens, suspicious contraptions, or butchering tools. This appeared like the helpful facility the Predators proclaimed it to be. Thousands of Khajiit were milling about while humans lingered by designated assistance tents. The largest line was at a station labelled for locating loved ones. You can't have got many people off planet, I muttered. Why give them hope? Carlos crossed his arms.
Such a cynic. If we reunite a handful of friends or family, then it's worth it.
The female guard shook her head in disapproval as well. She fished a yellow object out of her pocket and took down the outer skin. The soft flesh below had to be from a plant, judging by the lack of eyes, limbs, or blood. Was she offering me food? I wasn't hungry. To my bewilderment, Samantha took a bite out of the crust of the vegetation. The seed in the half-eaten object confirmed that it was a fruit, rather than any animal organ. This predator was chowing down on prey snacks right before my eyes, and I thought it might be curiosity what our food tasted like, but she seemed too bored for it to be interest. Marcel could have eaten fruit. I thought the only way to feed him was to sacrifice a crew member, I mused with a guilty bang. Stars! Are these humans even predators at all? Samantha's forward-facing eyes locked on me.
Why are you looking at me like that?
You eat plants, I squeaked. Anton nodded.
We're omnivores, Sovlin. Humans can eat meat, but that's not the main part of our diet.
Our maneuver. I struggled to pronounce the tonal word, since no equivalent existed in my language. Okay. Sorry for gawking. Maybe just show me something you want my help with. Carl steered me toward a large dormitory, palming his chin in thought. This predator had strange green markings across his arm. Was that some sort of customary brand for males in their service? Maybe it was a way of denoting his skill count or ancestral heritage. The olive-skinned human didn't notice me studying him, which was a relief. The male guard checked that no Khajiits were watching before pointing to the far end of the bunks.
See that group over there? How they seem to be protecting that chap with the bearish claws.
What about it? I answered.
That guy they're shielding has been unresponsive to any of our orders.
Martha chimed in.
Completely ignoring us.
Carlos nodded.
Which isn't the issue. Lots of Khajiits haven't been very cooperative because they're afraid or otherwise. But this particular fellow, it's like everyone tries to get him away as quickly as possible.
So, what? You, want me to get this one to listen to you? I can't guarantee I can do that. The predator shook his head.
Just find out why they're hiding him. If he's a celebrity, a religious leader, a politician, I don't know. If he's important to you all, we can give him special treatment.
The Khajiit in question wasn't anyone that I recognized. If I didn't know him, it was unlikely he was famous enough that large percentages of old people would pick him out. A suspicion flickered in my mind that this one had some sort of disability. Everyone knew that predators practiced the survival of the fittest maxim of nature. The humans had ample emotions, but would they knowingly expend resources on a deficient individual? Someone with a permanent handicap wouldn't be helpful for rebuilding our species to the predatory mindset. Surely they'd want that trait wiped out of the gene pool. Humans would probably think they're doing us a favour with how limited our numbers are. They'd never understand why we nurse an individual who cannot care for themselves or can never live a normal life. I'll check in, I growled. Don't come with me. Nobody will talk to you. Samantha tossed the finished fruit peel into a waste bin.
Fine. Don't try to run. That band on your ankle will tell us where you are.
My conscience was torn as I wandered over to the group. While I owed the predators an immense debt, one I could never atone for, sacrificing another person's life felt immoral. Perhaps I should have just refused to help. If I didn't know anything, it couldn't be used against the pillow guy. A Khajiit female watched my approach and pointed a claw at me.
Stop. What do you want?
I halted in my tracks. Is the young man there all right? Have the predators done something to him?
Nothing like that.
She muttered.
Why should we trust you? You just came in with a bunch of their soldiers. We saw you go through the checkpoint.
I'm a high-ranking Khajiit officer that was taken prisoner during the war. The words were automatic, as if some other persona jumped behind the wheel. The second they release me, I'm doing what I can to help. Under the circumstances. You might know me. My name is Captain Sovlin. Her eyes widened.
The Sovlin. It's an honor, sir. I'm Berna, and the Silent One's Talpin.
Nice to meet you. May I ask again what the issue is?
Tally's deaf. He can't hear any of the predator's commands, and they're starting to get belligerent. We're trying to guide him, but it's a matter of time before they figure it out.
How long do you think you can keep them in the dark? The humans aren't stupid.
A few days at most, but every hour we keep my brother alive is worth it to me.
I studied the deaf Khajiit, and noticing the confusion plastered across his features, a burning feeling crawled into my throat. The length of Talpin's lower spine suggested that he had just reached adulthood. This teenager had so much of his life ahead of him, and his family circle would mourn his loss immensely. The UN soldiers were waiting, expecting a full report. Yes, it was a single life to earn the humans' favour, one that would be terminated soon anyway. But there were so many fatalities on my conscience. As it were, that count was more than I could live with. They couldn't let another person die because of me. Not a single one. The Terrant would resent my disobedience, but any threats paled in comparison to a novel source of guilt. I understand. I suggest that you lay low as possible, I said with a soft tone. Take care of yourselves. Tolkien waved at me, blissfully ignorant of the dilemma in my mind. I shuffled back toward the predators while a choking sickness clamped down on my stomach. Their hideous eyes searched mine for any clues. Carlos barked a question, but the translated meaning was lost beneath my swirling thoughts.
Sovlin, talk to me, buddy.
Anton patted my shoulder, and I flinched at the contact.
You look shaken up. What's the matter?
Samantha narrowed her eyes.
What did they tell you? If there's a threat, we can try to de-escalate the situation. That is part of our training, you know.
I'm sorry. No one is in danger, but I can't tell you, I whimpered.
What do you mean you can't tell us?
The female predator hissed. Your reaction could be drastic. I can't get someone else killed, no matter how bad I feel about Marcel. Just throw me back in my cell, okay? Please. She blinked.
Nobody is getting killed. Have humans ever displayed violence toward you? How do you trust us to conduct ourselves with kindness and compassion, how you haven't reformed at all? Pick one.
I don't know. Shit, I don't know.
Sovlin, we're trying to help these people. You have my word that no harm will befall any of them. Not unless there is zero alternative.
Carlos growled. I squeezed my eyes shut. Feeling empathy was a far cry from the altruistic disregard of genealogy. Humans wouldn't be a strong warrior species without making theological sacrifices. It might stupefy them that we burdened ourselves with so-called debility. Would honor be enough to compel the predator guards to spare Tolkien. The lawyer jostled my arm again.
You're panicking. I can see that. Whatever predator nonsense you are all convinced of, it's dead wrong. We had nothing like the Ark, sir.
Yes, but he's deaf, I blurted. The humans recoiled. All of their expressions seemed stunned for how their eyebrows shot up toward their hairline. I don't think that possibility even crossed their mind. Why would it when they would never engage in such an impractical undertaking themselves? Shit, what have I done? You couldn't keep your fat mouth shut and let a teenager live his final days in peace, I berated myself. You're a weak-minded, selfish arsehole, Sovlin. You should have spaced yourself back on your ship. Samantha scratched her head.
Is that so hard? I think I can take care of this.
The UN guards stalked toward the group, and I tailed behind them in mute horror. My brain was screaming at them to stop, but I couldn't muster the words. The self-hatred reached a new high. My will to live felt depleted. Were the predators going to take Tolkien away from his family? Execute him in front of the watching crowd? The female human approached without drawing her weapon and gestured toward the deaf youth. Tolkien screeched as he saw the armed predator's attention on him. With bristling spines, he tried to crawl under his bunk. The Gajane cluster gaped at me with looks of absolute betrayal. Tears swelled in my eyes.
How could you, Sovlin?
Branna jumped between the Terrans and her brother, flexing her claws in defiance.
I thought you were a hero. A man who would die for our planet.
I collapsed to my knees, hugging my chest. I'm so sorry. I trusted them.
Please, don't kill him, predators. I'll give you whatever you want.
The sister protested. Samantha dropped to one leg.
We're not going to hurt anyone. Can you understand me now?
She made a series of animated gestures concurrent with her speech. Tolkien watched her with a blank stare, trembling. Her clawless fingers curled into strange motions, but they didn't seem random. My misery gave way to confusion as I tried to understand what she was doing. Was this some non-verbal form of communication? That's not hunger or disgust in her eyes. I don't think...
Sign language.
Carlos explained, spotting my bafflement.
It's how deaf people communicate on our planet. Do your translators work on it?
No, only audible language. That's why Tails' signals don't translate, I stammered. The female predator lowered her hands.
Damn it. Please tell him we're going to find a way to talk to him, Gajit. Ask him for a little patience.
Werner gaped at the human soldiers.
Okay. Thank you.
My mind was spinning. The humans created an entire gesture language for those who lacked hearing. Did that mean they catered to other elements too? That individuals like Tolkien could live normal lives? This suggested that the limits of their nurturing went much farther than I imagined. The Archer would have considered any hindered offspring as prey, lumping it in the same category as their food. But then again, they abandoned their children days after birth, whereas Marcel spoke as if humans kept contact with their progeny. With their empathetic behaviour toward our younglings, I couldn't imagine they left their kids to fend for themselves. I don't understand. You speak a language for deaf people, but you can hear, I murmured. Samantha raised her shoulders briefly.
My brother is deaf. was from birth.
Burner's eyes widened.
Your parents raised a deficient offspring. We worked their whole lives for it. Kept it. What the fuck? Of course they kept him.
She spat. The Gajit flinched.
Sorry, shit. I meant no offense, Predator. I thought you cared about individual contributions.
There are more ways to enhance society than being the pinnacle of physical perfection.
Anton met my gaze, though, replying to Burner. It was like he knew my thoughts followed a similar track.
One of our greatest astrophysicists was a quadriplegic for decades, fully dependent on the care of others, unable to talk without a speech synthesizer. Brilliant man.
I twisted my claws, blocking their words. Though I regretted my behavior toward Marcel, my understanding of humans was limited to the scope of my prior knowledge. Zahn had spoken in ghastly detail about their cruelty and malice. Old briefing videos encapsulated those heinous acts, and confirmed the unthinkable level of viciousness abiding within them. Even in Terran domain, all I see is compassion. Where is the humanity that the Federation saw? Wouldn't such a brutish nature shine through somewhere? Seeing their redeeming qualities, such as how they were capable of empathy, was a start. However, these primates were nothing at all like any scientist predicted. Predator's entire purpose in an ecosystem was to weed out the weak, but they were natural selection itself. You're quite right, humans. You are nothing like the Arxa, I admitted.
We're not. We want you to help us beat them, Sovlin. But the Yemen needed to see that you trust us first.
A hard glint flashed in Carlos's brown eyes.
I'm satisfied that your remorse is genuine. What do you say we spend a few hours here, then we talk shop?
That translated as, discussing work.
Touché. We're drumming up plans to take the fight to the Arxa and to bring whatever is left of your cradle back into our hands. Would you be willing to look them over? Perhaps serve alongside us?
I realized that, in spite of my visceral reaction to their features, I almost liked these humans. They had a certain charisma when they articulated their lofty intentions. Our cradle would be little more than rubble now, but its symbolism counted for something. A few thousand Gajits might have survived in bondage, and these strange visitors.
Oh, you're all wet. That's what you get for going out in a hurricane. Make sure your window's shut. Okay. It's midnight. You want to go to bed? My dogs are getting up early in the morning. But anyway, yeah, you guys stay safe. And I'll see you all for the next one. What do you think? It's not perfect texture-wise, but I mean, for me, it's pretty good. I like the posture too. It looks a little regal. All right. What to do with you? Let's see if there's something smaller. You're quite dirty. Oopsie. The face actually might fit on this one. What do you think? See if I can get your head off. I think you need to be washed first. Can't get rid of the basket without too much damage. I think this one will go here, and then I can have 2 Triceratopses. Alrighty. Either way, thanks everyone for stopping by. Stay safe, and I'll see you probably tomorrow. Good night. Where is it? Ah, you don't need that much of my face.